Today, a research report presented to the faculty of Siksikan National High School, Junior High School Department, Puerto Princesa City, Palawan, in partial fulfillment of the requirements for English Grade 10 for school year 2020 to 2021.
By
Copio Prince Jacob, Madrogaba Jan Armel,
Mirasol Justin Kate,
Rosales Raizaan, Silverio Jasmine P.
We are now presenting our research entitled Junior High School Students Study Preference During Pandemic, Modular, Face-to-Face, Online, or Blended Learning.
Both online learning and distance learning requires similar online learning tools, but there the similarity ends. Overall, there are three major differences between online and distance learning: location, interaction, and intention.
Because of the differences in location, the interaction between you and your students differs as well. Distance learning includes no in-person interaction between teachers and students. However, you likely rely on digital forms of communications such as messaging apps, video calls, discussion boards, and your school's learning management system.
Here are the objectives of the study.
What learning modalities that the students prefers, modular or online?
Does the students having hard time on studies if it's modular or online?
How helpful are your teachers on your studies?
Significance of the study. It is important to know what learning modalities the student prefers, because from this research, the students will be helped on choosing what types of learning they choose. Does this research also help their parents on how to teach their children so the students will not be late on passing their outputs? This research is also a big help to the school administration because they will notice if the student is
studying hard, and also these modalities
help the students increase their knowledge. It is also a big help for the teachers because they don't know.
Chapter 2, Body of Research Study. Review of related literature and studies. More and more students are finding that the traditional brick and mortar style of the learning doesn't fit their needs. One of the most appealing aspects of online learning is the flexibility it offers. Tailor your school day to fit your needs and match your work style. You don't have to be afraid to work ahead or feel discouraged if you want to take more time on a particular subject. This study tackles blended learning effectiveness, which has been investigated in previous studies considering grades, course completion, retention, and graduation rates. No studies regarding effectiveness in view of learning characteristics or background, design, features, and outcomes have been done in the Ugandan university context. In a report by Oxford Group 2013, some learners, 16%, had negative attitudes to blending learning, while 26% were concerned that learners would not complete study in blending.
This study is done in the context of a plan to undertake innovative pedagogy involving use of a learning management system or model for the first time in teaching and learning in a Uganda university. The learner characteristics, backgrounds being investigated for blended learning effectiveness include self-regulation, computer competence, workload management, social and family support, attitude to blended learning, gender, and age. The outcomes considered include satisfaction, performance, intrinsic motivation, and knowledge
This
instruction.
review presents research about blended learning effectiveness from the perspective of learning characteristics or background, design features, and learning outcomes. It also gives the factors that are considered to be significant for blended learning effective. The selected elements are the results of the researchers' experiences at a Ugandan university where students' learning face challenges in adapting the use of technology in
A study on 40 elementary school students who were enrolled in a basic skills reading program in Westfield, New Jersey during the 1995 to 1996 school year. The purpose of the study was to establish whether one modality appeared with greater frequency than another in this group of students experiencing difficulty acquiring the skill of reading. By the means of online learning, the teacher can analyze the problem of students regarding on the topic they can communicate to each other. Modules have also feedback form on its back, but sometimes students didn't answer it, so it may be.
Chapter 3, Presentation of Data and Conclusion. As you can see, Graph 1 shows the distribution of preferred modalities that the student have chosen during this time of pandemic. We can see that among the total number of respondents, 26 of students choose face-to-face modality of learning, followed by modular learning that has 16. Next is online learning, which has 14 votes. This amplifies that the majority of the students or respondents preferred to have a face-to-face modality of learning, which they used to have in the normal setup. However, because of this pandemic, the extent of the face-to-face learning modality is still at stake. Face-to-face learning is easier to engage in person-to-person than through your computer. Online learning requires much more discipline and self-motivation to stay on task. Students have to take time to study and apply what they are learning without being in the setting of a classroom. Some classes just cannot be taught online because of the pandemic. We are now proceeding to graph 1.2. It is the graph shows the numbers of votes of the most effective learning delivery modalities. Graph 1.2 shows the most effective learning delivery modality based on the student's experience. We can see that among 50 students who answered the survey, 33 of them choose face-to-face learning, followed by 11 students who choose online or blended learning. Lastly is the modular learning that got 6 votes. This shows that the majority of students preferred to have a face-to-face modality of learning which they used to have in normal setup. However, because of this pandemic, again, the face-to-face learning modality is still at stake. Graph 2 shows the difficulty on taking the students' preferred learning modalities. Graph 2 shows the difficulty of the learning modality that the student choose. This graph shows that in modular modality, 21 students have moderate difficulty on taking their studies. 18 students says that they have easy difficulty on taking their modules. Lastly, 11 students having hard time on answering their modules. So this shows that most students have take modules moderately. This graph also shows the difficulty of taking online or blended learning modality. Based on the 50 students that took our survey, 8 students say that they have easy difficulty taking online or blended learning. 15 students vote moderate learning on taking online or blended learning. Lastly, 22 students said that they have taken online or blended learning hard. So it shows that most students are having a hard time on online or blended learning. But why do students have a hard time answering online? According to Amanda Moren, whether you call it remote learning, online learning, or distance learning, school looks different during the COVID-19 pandemic. While some students are thriving with this way of learning, many students don't seem to engage in it. Some students may not be present at all. Others may be in attendance but they are not turning in work of doing more than the bare minimum. Research shows that students who are genuinely engaged persevere despite challenges. Engaged students are attentive and curious. They find meaning in what they are learning. Whether their classroom is brick and mortar or virtual, here are 5 possible barriers to students' engagement during distance learning. Students' life circumstances have changed. Number 2, students are dealing with stress. Number 3, the content is not accessible. Number 4, the students need more structure and support. Number 5, your expectation for engagement have not been changed. We are now proceeding to graph 3. How helpful are the teachers on taking their studies? Based on the survey we created, 25 students said that their teachers are very helpful for them. 15 students said that their teachers are slightly helpful. Lastly, 10 students say that their teacher doesn't help. So, the majority of students said that their teacher is very helpful for them. According to the study of the Eastern Mediterranean University, in Turkey, a team of faculty and students examined the respective role of teaching and students in distance learning. Teachers collaborate with students in self-development and responsibility. Teachers provide an environment, material, and guidance for collaborative learning, interactive discussion groups, individual learning, and research. Teachers also provides props and accurate feedback to students to facilitate learning. This is how important the teacher is. Those who say that their teachers never help, we recommend that they must contact them. We are now proceeding to conclusion. After conducting the data analysis and interpretation, the researchers have concluded the following inference. With regards to the learning delivery modalities presented, the respondents have chosen the face-to-face modality. We conclude that junior high school students still prefer the normal classroom setup rather than other learning modalities. However, the face-to-face class is still at stake because of this pandemic. Based on the graph 1, the second most highest result is the modular learning. We can still implement this type of learning. As you can see, the characteristic of modular learning is fit to the situation that we have right now. We can also say that online learning is better than modular learning because it has higher quality. But how about those students that is inefficient to this type of learning? We show that the result of those students who have difficulty on their choose modality. As you can see, the majority choose the moderate difficulty on modular learning and hard difficulty on online learning, so we conclude that most students is having hard time on studying online than modular learning. So modular learning is still our best choice. Lastly, on graph 3, you see the result of how helpful are teachers taking their study. As you can see, out of 50 students, 25 says or 50% says that their teacher is very helpful to them. So teachers is still important in our study. Thanks to all students who have answered our survey. Last, we are now proceeding to recommendation. Based on the drawn conclusion for this research report, the researchers respectfully commend the following. Because of most of the students prefer to have a face-to-face learning modality, the school administrator must have a concrete plan of action to take in order to cater the needs of students to have at least limited face-to-face contact with their classmates and friends during this time of However, the decision will still be based on quarantine status in the community, which is set the NIATF. We recommend to the school administration that modular learning must be chosen as the most alternative way of delivering knowledge to students than the other learning modalities.
And that's all for our research presentation. Thank you.